everybody. It's been a while, huh? So, apologies for not putting anything up recently. A couple of things have happened. Well, for one, I turned 30. It's crazy. I'm 30. But also, had a couple of family emergencies, so been kind of worn out from that and just haven't really had the time to really put up much in the way of content. Any of you that have supported my other channel, by the way, you did see that guitar cover. Yes, that was posted on my birthday, but that was pre-recorded well before then, and I just released it on the day. So, wasn't diving anyone, but the last few days have been pretty hectic. But we're back now and in good timing because the weather pattern's getting pretty interesting here. Got a lot to cover actually. We're going to be covering winter weather too, which is pretty crazy to think about. This is about on schedule though, I would say. But if you look to the bottom or top right corner, I'm actually going to put it in the top right hand corner here. But if you look in the top right hand corner, you're going to be taking a look at the severe weather outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center. As you can see on there, not really anything super noteworthy at the moment, but the predictability to low tags for days 4 through 8 are abundant. So we will probably be seeing some severe weather in the near future. Probabilities just aren't too high at the moment. There's nothing that would warrant a slight risk in advance or greater. The real topic that I'm going to be harping on in particular is just the overall activity that we're going to be dealing with. And it's really well reflected in both the temperature and the precipitation maps on the 6 to 10 day outlook. So as you can see, this is a classic negative PNA setup here, where we have the cooler temperatures dominant out towards the west and widespread above average temperatures out towards the east. We could be even seeing some record numbers over here. I can't even speak, but record numbers over towards the Mississippi River Valley and even heading all the way up into the Midwest here. This probability right here, this color that you're seeing reflects a 80 to 90% probability of above average temperatures. And the 80% probability, or at maximum 80% probability, even stretches all the way out pretty far to the east here. It even goes into the Ohio Valley at this point. So expect a major ridge over here towards the eastern half of the U.S., especially right around and just a little bit to the east of the Mississippi here. Probabilities do drop off the further off to the north and east that we go. Only place that's showing anything towards near normal temperatures right now is Maine. Everyone else has a pretty good probability of above average temperatures here. Stark contrast to what we see over towards SoCal, and you don't really see this often, especially given the type of Nino pattern that we have right now, or Enzo. We have a La Nina, which typically means that towards the southwest we usually end up being warmer. Not really the case this time. Just a couple extra, just an odd phenomenon to see this here. Not uncommon, but you don't see this every year, I'll put it that way. But in any case though, the greatest probability of below average temperatures is actually going to be over towards SoCal, where we're dealing with a 70 to 80% probability of below average temperatures within this period here. So expect some pretty busy weather, of course, especially over towards the southwest here. And it's also pretty well reflected in the precipitation outlook like we mentioned before. In fact, the greatest probability of above average precipitation is, of course, over here towards the southwest and over towards the southern plains here. Thing to make note of here, and I don't want to get anyone's hopes too high over here or concern anyone about the southwest, but you have to remember what your average rainfall amount within the 6 to 10 day period or within a monthly period is. For some of you, you might get that within the course of a day, others not so much. But the fact is, looks like there is a very good chance that we will be seeing precipitation on the way for this region here. And it's also going to be an increased amount of precipitation towards the Great Lakes, the northern plains, and also the northwest as well. During this time of year, it's not surprising to see the increase in precipitation over here. It's actually very common, especially given the fact that we have a La Nina fall and winter ahead for us. Also, this is not very often that we see this over towards Alaska, where we have the entire state covered in above average probability for precipitation here. So just kind of confirming basically what we were already thinking, that things are going to be pretty busy over here. So we're going to have abundant moisture across the board here. So expect some winter weather, especially over towards the northwest as time goes on here. Alright, so here's a look at the jet stream. We have the Euro on the bottom left corner as we do classically. But the thing to make note of here is you look at both of these, you can quickly tell that we have a pretty busy pattern right here. The outcomes are slightly different, of course, because they're different models, but in either situation here, expect major temperature difference to be occurring with both of these, especially as we go further along here. Now, the most notable trough that I've seen has been on the GFS so far, and this is where we get past that 240-hour mark for the Euro. So we're out of range with that one. This is GFS only, but if this scenario comes into play here, and we'll go ahead and throw the temperature map on here by this point, the 540 line or the 32-degree line is going to be somewhere towards the Ohio Valley, pushing towards the Tennessee Valley. So we're going to have very much below average temperatures as we go further along. This is going to be cutting it awfully close to the Thanksgiving holiday week. So big time weather could be ahead for that. We could see a mixture of winter and severe weather amongst this entire pattern here. But as we get towards the back half of the month in particular, I'm really interested as to what could be ahead with that. We do start to see some warming coming back into play again as well. So that could be setting the stage later down the line for additional severe weather towards the deep south. In particular, I'm thinking across the Ozarks, the Southern Plains, and maybe even the Southeast here. So second season lovers for severe weather, it's your time. You need to be watchful, especially if you're planning to chase, but I would only encourage you to chase if you are experienced and a professional. If you aren't, then I would highly advise against it. In any case, though, as we go further along here, we're going to go ahead and kind of focus a bit more on the severe weather side for this part of the video here. We're looking at our dew point, aka our moisture returns, and as you can see right now with the amount of troughing that we have, I'm not too concerned in regards to severe weather potential. Maybe towards the Southern Plains there could be a couple odd chances here or there, but things look like they start to get a little bit more notable as we get towards the end of this upcoming week. Really, I think timing is going to be more so an issue, and also a lack of large-scale ascent. But as we go further along here, get better moisture returns, this is where we start to see a little bit more troughing coming into play here. Other factors still come in, they still matter at this point, but I'm not as concerned about the severe weather threat with this at the moment. But things, as we know, things like to change pretty quickly. So as we go further along here, that cold air really starts to settle in, and that's pretty well reflected through our dew point signatures here. Usually colder air tends to be dry, so as you can see, that cold air really starts to kick in across the entire country as a whole. And then towards the end of the model run here, right around the time where I was saying that we were going to see that increase in warm temperatures over towards the Southern Plains and the Ozarks here, we're starting to see a moisture return reflecting along with that. So like I said, very much interested in what the back half of the month looks like in particular. Towards this half of the month, there might be some severe weather chances here and there, but they're looking rather scattered at the moment. But as we go further along here, we're going to actually go ahead and take a look at our surface instability. We'll also mix in what the lightning flash density is going to look like over the area here. In the short term, though, I'm not really expecting a whole lot in the way of severe weather. Showers and storms are definitely possible, but as far as instability concerns, we're lacking a little bit right now. As we go further along, as we get towards like the 13th, there is this small area of interest over here towards Louisiana that's kind of caught my eye a bit here. This is mainly due to the amount of instability we have available. Forcing isn't the most incredible over here, so I think that's another kind of knock against this potential setup. Excuse me, but in any case, though, we do have the moisture, we do have the instability. Kinematically, I think, is where we're still kind of lacking as well. So the shear and the lift, I'm still questioning at this moment in time. As we go further along, though, you see that we start to get an increase in instability signals as we get towards the end of the weekend, especially towards Saturday afternoon, towards central Oklahoma. That is a point of interest for me for sure. And then as we go further along, we start to get these little scattered signals after that. Like I said, it's really towards the back half of the month where things really start to get interesting here. And then by the time we get towards the end of the model run here, of course, it's harder to hone in on stuff like instability here. So not too concerned here. There is an interesting signal that kind of correlates with that moisture return and also that warm sector that we're going to be starting to see come into play here before all is said and done. So definitely interested in what that has to offer as we go further along here. Still, of course, it's 16 days out. So as we mentioned before, we're going to talk about winter weather. And as you can see on this map here, this is looking at the snow hazards in the long term here. And that system on around the 15th and the 16th is pretty robust here. So I do think we're going to see a pretty dynamic storm system where we'll see an increase in heavy snow activity over towards the Rockies here and over towards the northwest as we go further along. Also, it looks like the Sierras might get into the action to go along with that. It's a pretty similar time frame for these regions as well. In the short term, though, we have to look over towards the northwest for snowfall probabilities, and they're especially high over towards Washington in particular right now, and well, of course, north of the border. But we're getting some pretty high probabilities in Montana, Idaho, and also parts of Wyoming as well. So winter weather is going to become more and more of a factor, and it's going to become more prevalent on the channel as well. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. If you're a winter weather lover, let me know in the comments. So as we go further along here and take a look at what the final map will be like, I know some people might still have their concerns with Raphael. I wouldn't be too concerned with it. Look at how this thing pretty much dissipates over the Gulf here. Environment's just not ideal for tropical development, or to really sustain any sort of tropical entity if it makes it into the region. So as we go further along here, like I said, in the short term, not expecting a whole lot out of severe weather, or a whole lot in the way of severe weather. These setups just aren't really built up well enough to produce that. There will be an increase in winter weather chances over towards the northern states. I'm really interested in the UP and Michigan still in regards to a lake effect event later down the line here. Dynamically, there is a setup over here towards the 17th and the 18th over towards the Ohio Valley that I'm kind of interested in as well, but stop my questions with that. So go further along, this eventually works its way to the southeast. I am curious as to whether or not this may result in some potential for flash flooding over here, depending on how this sets up. We could have an issue where we end up having these showers and storms training over an area. And where we're seeing that happen is not a good thing, because over towards eastern Kentucky and the Carolinas here, flooding was pretty significant from Helene. We're still recovering from that too, by the way. As we continue to move forward here, you can see winter weather starting to become a little bit more prevalent over here towards the northeast and especially towards the northwest. Eventually, we start to get these little pineapple express gas systems that are coming in from the southwest. And they're only aiding to feed storm systems with moisture here. The good thing with this upcoming cool down that we could anticipate here potentially by the 21st into the 22nd is that, well, there's not going to be a whole lot of moisture to work with, so the snowfall is going to be on the minimum. But there is this feature right here that's been only picked up on the GFS so far due to its range, to where, depending on how this pans out, could have a pretty significant nor'easter right around that Thanksgiving time frame here. So very interested to see how that pans out. And then we still have another big system that falls in behind that. From this current outcome right now, it looks like it's bringing in some heavy snow to the equation here. So like I said, a lot going on here. Very much interested in seeing what the final snowfall totals will be. I'll go ahead and take a little sneak peek at that real quick before we're done here. So if I were to go over the 24-hour totals here, this is the only model that I can use that shows range up to 16 days, so I'm not going to do any model comparisons today. But as you can see, northwest seems to be the point of interest for right now. Do get a little bit of sneaky snow showers over towards the northern parts of the New England region, but it's really going to be a lot of focus towards the Rockies and the northwest as a whole here. It's really not going to be till past the middle part of the month here where we start to see a little bit of snow sneak into the far northern plains and maybe the UP. Totals right now are pretty light, but as we go further along, this is where I'm starting to think that lake effect snow machine may try to get going here, depending on what those lake surface temperatures are looking like right now. As we go further along here, this is where that nor'easter comes into play here. And early totals are showing up to a foot right now. Now keep in mind, this is super far out, so this is almost like kind of unwrapping your presents before it's Christmas time. You can easily get in trouble doing this, so would not encourage you to take these into account right now. We're going to be more so looking for trends beyond this point here. But as you can see, though, winter weather is definitely going to be coming into play along with severe weather potential before we get to the end of this month here. So make sure to stay in tune. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, it's been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. Have an awesome rest of your Sunday.